Okay, and welcome to this tutorial. What we're going to do with this is to actually make a selection or a mask rather to get rid of this sky. We're going to place a really large image of the moon in the background and make quite a nice compositional photo. So we've got the picture of the church there, and we've got this picture of the moon that I took, and we're going to combine these together. The moon is going to be, of course, behind the church, and we want to retain all these details in the trees and whatever. So it's quite complex, or it looks quite complex, to actually get a selection to do that. So I'm going to show you how to do that. So the first thing we're going to do is go to the layers. We're going to duplicate the layer, something I always do just to protect the image. So we've duplicated the layer. And what we want to do now is to make a selection of the sky. Now, there are a few ways we can do that, but with this image, and this is the type of image you want to use if you're going to do this type of thing, is there's no detail in the sky. It's quite a bland day, and I've overexposed slightly, so I've lost the detail on purpose to, or rather I've done the raw conversion to actually take away any of the sky detail there. So it's left a very plain background there that's quite bright. So it's got a huge contrast to the rest of the picture, and that's the important part. That's what you need to look for to be able to do it this way. So what we're actually going to do is to go to the channels. So if you click on channels, now if you can't see that, if you go to window and select channels, then they will appear. They've disappeared in my case because it was already open. So window, channels, and that will bring your channels up. And what we're looking at, we've got red, green and blue channels. And we're going to use the actual channels to make the selection. So the way we do that is we look down the actual images, and we're looking for the one with the most contrast. And I think it's very hard to tell in this, but I think blue is probably the one with the most contrast there. So I'm actually going to make a selection by holding down the Command key on a Mac and clicking, and that makes a selection. So we've got a selection there, and then I'm going to go to the layers, and I'm going to make a mask on this. So we click the mask on there, so we've got the mask. Now that key, the Command key that I held down to make the selection, so that was Control and click on the channel, and that, when we produce, that gives you the selection, and when we produce the mask is applied to that. Now if we look at the mask, basically the white area is the area that would be selected. Now if we'll turn this off, you can see that the sky is quite all selected there, but the rest of the image is not so well selected, and it's actually the reverse we want. So Command I. Now if you're on a PC, again I'm not too sure of the shortcut on that, but there's a different way of doing that, so that will apply to both, so we'll do it this way. If we go to image, so we've clicked on the mask first, that's important, and that's selected, and go to adjustments and then go to invert. And you can see now I've inverted the selection. Now I've turned off the background layer, and it's good to do that so we can actually see how much detail we've actually got. And you see we're lacking a little bit, we're losing a little bit there. Now there's a quick way of actually correcting this. So what I'm going to do is to right click on the layer and duplicate the layer, click on OK. That's looking a little bit better. Let's just try once more. Right click, duplicate layer, click on OK. And that is now looking pretty good. And what I'm going to do now is go to the background layer. So I've clicked on the background layer and I click on new layer. And I'm just going to color this in with a You can pick any colour really, but we want something that's nice and easy to see. I'm actually going to go with quite a dark colour, so I'm going to use a dark. I need to be something that will show up. So dark reddish colour there. And I'm just going to use the paint bucket tool and click, so I can see what we're sort of getting there. We can see we've got all this white detail. We'll just hide one of those. Yeah, I need that duplicated 3 times. So we've got the 3 times there. What I'm actually going to do with this is to click on the top one, hold down the shift key, click on the bottom one, so I've selected all 3 of those, and then I'm going to right click and I'm going to merge the layers. So that's made it more dense, if you want to put it like that. The original selection was quite pale, it wasn't selecting everything, so by multiplying the layer twice, it's made it more dense. And you still see what we're going to try and do now is to get rid of all these white areas that are selected there. And to do that, first thing I'm going to duplicate this layer just in case anything goes wrong. So we've got 2 copies of it. And the one at the bottom, I'll hide that. I'll click on the eye there to actually hide that. So making sure I'm on the top layer. So this one underneath is just there for protection. And I go to layer, matting right at the bottom there. And I'm going to click on remove white matte. And you see that's got rid of a lot of that white edge on there. Now what I'm going to do, I'm just going to do that once more. Layer, matting, remove white matte. And you can see now that's looking pretty good. Shall I do it once more? Let's have a look. Layer, matting, remove white matte. That's a lot better. Okay, so we've got that now, we've removed all that. Okay, so it's also removed some of this area there. So you can see we're lost a little bit on the bottom, but that doesn't matter because we've actually got this image at the back there that we duplicated. But if I click on that, you can see we bring this detail back in a little bit. So that's what we're going to do, but obviously it's bringing it back in the top as well. So I'm just going to hide that for the moment. And what I'm going to do is to make a selection, and I'm going to use a lasso tool for this, polygonal lasso tool, and I'm going to cut across these areas. So I'm going to come across there, might as well come up to there, and I'm going along the top of the church there. And I'm going to click. What I need to make sure is I'm not going outside, so I'm just slightly inside of the castle area. I don't want to go into the sky area whatsoever. I'm going to come down. And then come along this area. So I'm not going on the sky at all. Down. And double click there. So I've got this selection around that area, the bottom half of the area. And the reason I've done that, I'm now going to go to this layer, and we'll bring this one back in. And then I'm going to put a mask on that. So I'll click on the mask. So we're using the top half of this top layer, and for the bottom half we've got that layer. Now what I can do with this is duplicate this layer, and if I do that, that's going to make this bottom half image more dense, and I'm going to do that a couple of times. So again, by doing this, we're bringing back all that density in the image. It wouldn't really matter how many times you do that, because it's not going to affect the top part of the picture. So when I'm happy with that, I can hold down the Shift key. Actually, you can do that on all of them there. If I click on the top one, click down to the bottom one, right click and merge the layers. So we've now got a very good selection. And what we'll be doing is putting our moon over the top of this area. I'll leave this red on just for now. We don't really need that whatsoever. That's just there to see that we've got this. Okay, and what I'm going to do with this, I'm going to turn this layer to black now. So it's red at the moment. Let's select black. So on the color picker, black, go to the paint bucket tool and click. Because now we'll see another problem we've got is this red area. So how do we get rid of that? Because we'll be having a black sky behind there, so that's going to show up. I mean, it didn't show up before because we've got that red background on there, so this was being hid. But there is an easy way of doing this, so I'm going to really zoom in. So I've got some of these red areas selected. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on the magic wand tool, which is selection tool. I'm going to make sure that the tolerance is down very low. So I've got a tolerance probably on 32 when you first go to this, but I'm going to put it down to 5. And I'm going to click, this is why I need to be zoomed straight in so I can see areas of this. I'm going to click, I'm going to make sure that my selection is, if you look at these little icons at the top there, the first one is a new selection. The second one is to add to a selection. So you see that now, add to selection. And I'm going to click, making sure, right, select, deselect. I need to make sure I'm on the top layer. There we go. That's where I went wrong. And then I'm going to click on these red areas. A couple of different ones. Command Z on that because I missed. So if you miss, Command Z will take the last selection off. So just getting a couple of red areas there. Okay, and then I'm going to right click on the mouse and select similar. And that will pick up the other colours in that range. So any areas that are missing, I'm going to click on that colour there. Come along, and this bit darker there. Bit down here. So we're looking for different shades of red that haven't been selected. I think I missed another one. I'll press Command Z. Let's zoom in a little bit more. So make it nice and easy. It's quite important we get as much as we can. So I'm clicking on these areas now. Okay, that should be okay, I think. Let's do that bit there. Double click the hand tool. Again, I'm going to right click. So make sure I go back to the tool. So on the magic wand tool, right click and select similar again. That's got the majority now. Let's just have a go with this. So the way we're going to cure this basically is to paint over those red areas. So I'll make a new layer. We've still got the selection there. Let's just zoom in a bit. I'm going to select the colour of the tree. So I'm going to click on the foreground colour and let's go with something quite dark. So this green maybe, that should be okay. Double click the hand tool, zoom out, and all we're going to do now is to get a big paintbrush. So make sure the opacity and the flow are on 100. Make the brush large. Use a large size brush. And just hold down. And what that's doing, it's just painting on those selected areas. So when I go to select, deselect now, take that off, you can see. And that's okay, I think that will do. That's not too bad. We've got a little bit of red in some areas, but you know to put that right anyway. Should we just do these? So we'll do the same again. We'll click, deselect that, sorry. Need to make sure I'm on the right layer, so that layer with the trees on. Click on these areas. Right click, click on similar. It's got the majority I think, so I'll double click the hand tool. And once again, back to the paintbrush, click on this top layer and then just paint over all the areas, just in the top of the tree. If there was anything selected down the bottom, it probably should be red, so you wouldn't do that. Okay, so let's take off the selection, select, deselect. So what we're creating now is this perfect foreground for our image. We got rid of all the white by using that defringe and getting rid of the white areas. And now we've made selections, and basically they're still there. We've just painted over them. So now I've done that, I can merge this down, right click on that, merge down to the other layer. So we've just got the one layer there now. Okay, so we can go to our moon picture, click on the move tool, put the mouse on the moon and drag over to here. Make sure you come over the tab on the picture, don't let go of the mouse, bring the mouse over the picture and release. You can see it's come on the top at the moment, so we can drag this layer below the image of the church, and there's our moon. Now I want this to be much larger, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to zoom, click on the zoom tool, make sure you click on the minus to zoom out, so make it very small, click back on the move tool, and I'm going to resize this moon and make it dramatically large. Place it. The image. When I'm happy, I'll press the enter key, or you can click the tick to commit it on the options bar on the top. We double click the hand tool just to zoom back into the image, and there's our moon. And if we click on the move tool, we can now reposition it. Okay, I think actually I might want that a little bit bigger, so I'm just going to go up to the corner I've moved up, and I'm going to drag and make it even larger. When I'll resize that as well, hold down the shift key when you actually use the corner handle, because that will keep the perspective of the moon correct. We didn't mention that earlier, so that's really important. Otherwise you'll end up with a moon that's all shapes. Double click the hand tool, click apply to the transformation, back to the move tool. And there it's looking a little bit better. Do I want to go even larger? I think I do. Okay, so let's zoom out again. I'm just going to do this again. Or click the tick to commit, double click the hand tool. Oh, it's really big now, that's more like it. Back onto the move tool. This is the type of thing that I want. I want drama. There we go. So, just that's looking good now. What I'm going to do, because that's really oversized now and there's lots going over the edge of the image, I'm going to go to the crop tool and crop away that information that I don't need. So all I do is make sure that all the boxes at the top are clear. If not, click clear, and then just double press the enter key on the keyboard, and that will crop and take away anything outside of the area of the image. So you see it's looking okay now. Now, just to add a bit more drama to this, do I want to make this glow a bit? Let's just have a look. If we go to this layer, and I'm just going to go to the adjustment layers, and let's go on curves. And what I'm going to do on this is to go to the red, I think. I'm just going to drag that up a little bit. So on the red channel, I'm just going to add a little bit of red. Not too much, just a little bit. Okay. There we go. That's looking better. Okay, now to add a bit more drama. Obviously the light wouldn't be anything like that. I don't want it to look too real like that. You know, it's not that type of image. I want it to look unreal in one respect. What I am losing a little bit is on the left hand side there's some snowdrops, and they're not showing up very well, probably because there's probably a little bit of transparency still there. So if I go below this layer and create a new layer and get a white colour, get a brush, I'm just going to make sure that it's white underneath this area. So I'm just going to, you can see I'm painting, but I'm painting below that layer. I can actually brighten all of this out by just filling in with white. So if there's any flowers there, any white flowers, they're going to show up. Okay, so that's doesn't seem like a lot, but it's made a difference. You can see it's just made that a little bit better. Okay, so we're nearly there now. What I might do is add a bit of shadow just behind these trees. And I'm just going to do that freehand. We need to be above this top layer. So I'll go to the top layer, I create a new layer, and I want black. And I'm going to take the flow of the brush down quite low. Let's go about 15. And I'm just going to draw. That's actually not black, is it? It's green. Let's make sure we're on black. Always on black there. I'm just going to add a little bit of shadow in this area. Now it doesn't look very real yet, but it will. Reduce the size of the brush. Just have a bit there, and a little bit on this side. I'm not actually going to put any on the church because I don't think it'll add to the image. And really, if I was taking this for real, I know I wouldn't get a moon that size probably, but if I was taking a night shot in this situation, I would probably do a very long exposure and get a lamp and run up to the church and paint light onto the church so you'd actually get the same effect. So it is possible to get a very similar look by doing that if you're shooting for real. Now when we've done that, we're going to change the layer mode to soft light and just reduce the opacity a little bit so it just makes for a more realistic shadow there. Now what we're going to do is to create a vignette to darken the outside of this area. So on the top layer again, we want another new layer. I go to the marquee tool, and we want elliptical marquee tools, so circular one. And what we do is we go to the top left hand corner, and you can see the cross there. What I'm doing is getting the two edges of that cross, so not the middle points but the outside points of the left and the top there into the corner, so they're touching both sides. And then I'm going to drag down the mouse, hold it down, and do the same to the bottom right corner, and you can see that that gives me then something to work to get an elliptical shape. That's pretty much what I want, so it's fairly even across the image by using the actual lines of the pointer in that way. Okay, so what I need to do now is to inverse this selection. So we'll go to select, inverse. So we're on the new layer. We've got black as the foreground colour already. If not, change it to black and get your paint bucket and click. Okay, select, deselect. Now what we're going to do with this is to blur this. So filter, blur, Gaussian blur we want. We want this to be quite high, so I'm going to drag that up. I don't want it to be quite diffused. Something about like that looks good. Maybe a little bit less. Click on OK. And then what we're going to do is to change that to soft light. Just reduce the opacity slightly, very slightly. And that's looking a lot better now. We're getting a bit of really, well, is it real? A realistic look to it, but it looks really nice. We're getting a nice image from this. Okay, so now what we're going to do, top layer, make sure you're on there, and we go to adjustment layers, and we want a curves layer. And all we're going to do with this is at the bottom, towards the bottom there, click and just drag down slightly. So we're making it darker as such, and then at the top we're creating like an S shape, so I'm going to bend that up just a little bit. Now that's overdone it, but I'm not bothered about that, because what I'm then going to do is go to the layers. We'll just take the opacity of the layer down to get what we want. And I think that looks okay. So there we are. That's our, shall I mention Peter Lik? Peter Lik, a very famous photographer, self-proclaimed world's best photographer, in fact. Done a picture with a very large moon in a similar style, but with a cliff and a tree, and he announced to the world in the first place that he actually took this shot in camera, and it was a total lie. It was in fact done exactly the same way as how I've just created that picture. So he made a bit of a fool of himself, and that picture has now been removed from his catalogues. 2 images, I think, both of the same moon, in 2 different locations apparently. So that is basically how he done it, and how I've done it. So I might take that down just a little bit more. There we go. I hope you enjoyed that lesson. The last thing would be to flatten the image once you're happy with everything. So a layer, flatten image, discard any hidden layers, and there's your large supermoon image.